on Sunday, February 11th, 2024, at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. The sports world, the entertainment world, the pop culture world, the entire eyes of the United States and millions among the world will all be focused on one game, the biggest game in 2024. It will be between the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs against the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 58. And we are here to break down how we got here, previewing the game, our predictions, and what might be the fallout of one of the biggest games in sports history here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. It's Paul Chivari. It's Devin Tingle. It's the marvelous one, Dan Marver. And we have finally made it to the Super Bowl. Everybody had a prediction. Everybody had vibes. Everybody's had different MVPs. Everybody's had different scenarios on how we would get to this day in the desert in Sin City. But we finally have our matchup. We finally have the key components of what's going to make this chemistry experiment explode on Sunday. And I am super excited because I think, wow, the scenario a lot of us would have liked to see, the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens, even though this seems very chalk, this seems like the heavyweight matchup we really need to see and decide whether or not San Francisco can place themselves in the pedestal, in the room, in the pantheon of some of the great legacy teams over the last 10, 15 years. And Kansas City, the Dragon, the Schmaug, the Vader, the Thanos of the NFL. Can Patrick Mahomes, can Andy Reid add another trophy to their legacy, cementing themselves as the team of this modern era? Paulie, you are somebody who watches a lot of Chiefs football because of the team you root for. You see the damage
twice a year, yeah.
Well, you have to see how they play against the Chargers, how they do against the Broncos, and then how many games they're going to be above you guys by the time we get to October, if they're going to be 5 games or 6 games above the Vegas Raiders. And playing in Allegiant Stadium, a lot of vibes in this game. What do you think about how we got here in this matchup of what is two really tentpole teams in the NFL?
I think for starters, the 49ers were always a talented team, but last year they ran into injuries once Purdy got hurt, and that's where the Eagles kind of took over. But the 49ers had a good shot to make the Super Bowl last year. Big storyline for the Niners is the fact that it'll be Brock Purdy and not Jimmy Garoppolo starting in this Super Bowl. And then, of course, the Chiefs, where people counted them out how many times this year and how many injuries we saw and how many distractions off the field that we saw, and they were still able to pull it together and looked pretty comfortable doing it. I know Buffalo gave them a little bit of trouble, and Baltimore, it was close, but Kansas City seemed in control this entire playoffs, and they're just one of those teams. They're in that era. And I do want to point out that 3 out of 4 of us in our preseason predictions had the Chiefs in this Super Bowl, and all 3 also had them winning the Super Bowl out of this group here. So do you guys know who the one that didn't get it right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And congratulations to Mercado and Devin that predicted Chiefs over 49ers before the season started in the Super Bowl. But I think that also speaks to the fact that they were safe bets too, not to take your predictions away. But they're such a strong team. Don't count out the Chiefs, and the 49ers were healthy and were able to prove that they can get back there.
I think that's so interesting that you bring that up, right? Like our predictions at the beginning of the season, because the NFL being such a short season and everybody living week to week, how many different times did it feel like that prediction seemed crazy? You're like, oh, there's no way it's going to be San Francisco. There's no way it's going to be Kansas City. Ups and downs. And I think by the end of maybe November, by the time we got to like mid-November, I was kind of already feeling that, man, it's hard to go against Patrick Mahomes, even if they don't look good. I've seen bad Patriots teams, but you don't go against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady at that point. And until somebody does it, you have to wait until somebody does it. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's the ebbs and flows of the NFL. And if you're a fan of, like, let's say Major League Baseball or the NBA, where you really have to take it slowly and by bigger samples and let the season play out, the NFL is not like that. The NFL is so fast-paced and so rapid, and to think about how crazy some of these predictions were, and I think so many people had really smart ones that seemed inevitable. Like, I bet you if you said the Cowboys were going to the Super Bowl around week 14, it seemed pretty smart, and now look where we are. But, Devin, you've seen Paul set this up, and you saw how in the NFC side, San Francisco took care of business against Green Bay and Detroit. Paul mentioned the Chiefs taking care of the Dolphins, taking care of the Bills, taking care of the Ravens. How are you anticipating? What are your vibes about this Super Bowl in Las Vegas?
Well, last time these two teams faced each other, we were followed with a global pandemic. So I am very nervous about this Super Bowl, to say the least. But I mean, it's not even so much as we'll call it the rematch. I mean, this is a much different 49ers team than it was, oh my gosh, 4 years ago. Time flies by. And this Chiefs team, I can't really even say they're pretty much the same team here. So it'll be very interesting to see. The Chiefs, they lost to Paul's Raiders of all teams on Christmas. It's one of those points where you just point and laugh at them here. And especially with the 49ers, a team I counted out towards the end of the season when Brock Purdy just seemed to forget who Brock Purdy is. And he still isn't playing super great like he was in the beginning of the season in the playoffs here. And yet we're kind of seeing the Chiefs the Chiefs are having low scoring games in the playoffs, with the exception of the Dolphins game here. And it's just kind of interesting to see how these are the two teams we get set with. I hold up four fingers. I know I do radio, kids. Stay in school. But just definitely, we're kind of in a much thing, as you said, everyone wanted the Ravens versus the Lions. And, the rumor is the NFL changed the script. But Pat McAfee came out today and said that the NFL is not scripted. And in Big Patty, we trust. But it's just kind of, a little disappointing here. That's like, of course, we got we have one of the number one seeds in the big Super Bowl here. And just, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, this could be one of the greatest games you've ever seen, or this could be another Super Bowl. It's like, hey, remember Super Bowl? And this is what number
58.
58. Thank you. I don't know my Roman numerals. Give me some slack here. And it's gonna be like, oh, remember Super Bowl 58? Who is in that one again? And that's just my thing here. So it's like, I have a feeling this Super Bowl is going to be remembered for things other than the game, and that's my worst feeling.
If you're ever confused about Roman numerals, just remember Adrian's Revenge. Okay? Just remember that is it. Shout out to all you
Rocky plus Rocky 333. Yeah.
It's funny you bring up low scoring games about Kansas City. They are playing great defense right now. And we've seen San Francisco be able to overcome bad Brock Purdy play. So it's one of these things where these two teams went against a lot of adversity, even some self-inflicted. But unlike all these other teams, they overcame it. And that's what champions do. That's what people who go to the next level, teams that go to the next level do. And that, to all credit, Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid, what he did with his squad. And obviously from Brock Purdy to Patrick Mahomes and all the amazing players on those two rosters, they overcame. And you got to give him credit for that. That's a big part of it. Marver, Super Bowl 58 at Allegiant Stadium, a Super Bowl that we're going to watch on NFL films 20 years from now. And the logos, the uniforms, the player names kind of feel historic in that aspect. It kind of just feels right. Chiefs and 49ers. Your thoughts on what we're going to see that Sunday?
I got a feeling. Okay, what's going to happen is it's going to be very much like a combination of Super Bowl LIV, where Kansas City Chiefs came back from double digits to beat San Francisco 31-20, or the last time they played in Santa Clara in October of 22, which was 44-23 Chiefs. Now, it may not be that high scoring, but I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than people think, despite the team's good defense, because it's obviously going to be a perfect playing conditions and whatnot. But really, for me, the highlight is going to be the commercials and Usher, no question about it. And this
What's
is
your favorite Usher song, Marver?
I don't know. Black Eyed Peas.
Close enough. You know what? Close enough.
Hey, listen, he was in the Super Bowl as a guest of the Black Eyed Peas. That's why I said that. But listen, the thing is that the most unusual part is that there are going to be 3 different anthems sung before the game. Are you guys aware of that?
No, because I know Reba McEntire will be there.
American, the African American, and I don't know what the third one is.
God Bless America.
Oh, okay.
Hey, look, they know they understand that this is a big pageantry, and this is a way to be on everybody's television from essentially 8 a.m. till midnight on Sunday. Marver?
That is correct. I mean, and the 2-week build up. I mean, to this point, it's almost like they don't really need that, because it used to be that the Pro Bowl meant something, and now it's like a tag football exhibition game with, so that's completely meaningless. So I think they almost should do away with that. But that's what's on this week, for whatever reason, where they have various activities to fill the week between the championship games of the conference and the Super Bowl. So it's a big void, but this week we'll have more hype, and then when the players and everybody arrive in Vegas, at the beginning of next week, the hype will build some more.
So I'm glad you brought up the players arriving Monday, Sunday into Monday, going into Super Bowl week, because it's interesting. And I want to go around the cubicle as we are breaking down Super Bowl 58 between the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs and the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. I'm Mike Mercado. It's Paul Chivari, Devin Tingle, the marvelous one, Dan Marver. And I want everybody to think about something that's intriguing them, a story that they want to kind of talk about for a second, about what they're thinking about the Super Bowl, because this is something that caught my eyes and I thought it was very interesting, especially coming off of the new deal that DraftKings is doing with LeBron James. And obviously we have the Las Vegas Raiders. We have the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. According to reports and the NFL themselves, there is no gambling allowed both on NFL and sporting books and in casino games, craps, roulette, poker, you name it, by any player or staff member on either one of these teams. So, and essentially both teams, to avoid that, are both staying roughly about 30 miles out of the Las Vegas Strip, both the Chiefs and the 49ers. I find that to be very interesting, how the NFL, sports in general, and the marriage of betting have kind of now blurred the lines. We're talking about sports books in arenas now. And then you're doing a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. You're putting your players in that position, and you're doing all these rules to kind of circumvent and try to keep things up board. But I just found it very interesting. I don't know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but I definitely think it is something to point out that this billion-dollar conglomerate, this billion-dollar event, is going to be in the betting capital of the world, in a stadium that was built off of betting losses by Americans, are very strict and have these rules about their players, not just on sports betting, but the thing that built Las Vegas themselves. Paulie, I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but if this is something you want to roll with, or if you have something else you want to talk about that kind of piqued your interest of the Super Bowl.
No, I think that's probably the best starting point for the storyline, regardless of who is going to be here. We knew it was going to be in Las Vegas. We know the marriage between the NFL and sports books. And yeah, the NFL has to be as transparent as possible to demonstrate that this game is not going to be affected by gambling off the field. So yeah, it's interesting with the players staying far away, but my curiosity, even outside of the gambling, is the fact that it is in Vegas. Take the gambling element out of it, it's still a distraction anyway because of how much recreation a person can have in Las Vegas, and then all the appearances that these guys have to do, all the different parties going around town. I did get the Las Vegas Tourism Authority emailed me a press release about this, and they had all of the various parties, just dozens upon dozens of Super Bowl parties and events going on during the week. So I don't know if any of these guys are required to make appearances or what sort of off the field distractions we're going to see. We always know that, the week that we're going to have coming up here is, Super Bowl week, where they have media day and practices and just all of the distractions that they're required to do regardless of the location of the Super Bowl. But I'm wondering if, even without the gambling element, if Las Vegas is going to be a major distraction off the field for some of these players.
Yeah, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. Paul brought up not even the gambling aspect, not even the teams that are there, but just the tourist experience, the amount of entertainment that is in Las Vegas, Nevada. Your thoughts on how the NFL is handling this, your thoughts on the entire situation of Vegas hosting a Super Bowl, and maybe anything else that's kind of piqued your interest so far.
So just to be clear, it's only the players, during the fans can still gamble and stuff on the game stuff, right?
Everybody can gamble except for staffers, coaches, and obviously the players.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. And I understand that. I mean, I understand the betting on the games. Absolutely not. If you're in the league, you should not be betting on the games you're going to be playing in. We don't want to be, the next Pete Rose or the 1919 Chicago White Sox. Yeah, it still stings, Paul. But just the whole that they can't just gamble in general here, at the casino. I mean, I understand Super Bowl weekend is a lot of stuff. Remember the good old, Marshawn Lynch, I'm just here so I don't get fined. But they have some time in between there to have fun. And, Vegas has, so many, casinos. It's not like they're saying, hey, you're not allowed to go to the bar and drink. I don't think that's a rule here. They're allowed to, have a little bit of fun here. I mean, granted, there really aren't, big party boys on either team here. But I'm just to the point where I'm like, it's one of those things where it also might kind of be the part of, I'm going to take a guess with, someone like Paul who's been to Vegas and Mercado's been to Vegas. I'm going to guess Marver, you may have been at least once in your lifetime. It's a big experience though. But if you're an NFL player who plays these teams like plays the team there like the Chiefs do, and you've probably been there at least 4 times now, do you think the tourism side kind of wears off? Do you think you got a busy day that once you're done with all your Super Bowl stuff, you even want to go out and enjoy yourself, or you want to just have a nice night and rest?
No, it's a good point. It's a very interesting point, especially since these are pro athletes and this isn't, 1990 where you're worried about losing Dennis Rodman, who's going to be in Vegas one day and then in the NWO the next day and then go get 16 boards in an NBA finals. Like these guys tend to do their tempo. And I think that's a big thing. And Paulie, I think you have a very interesting perspective about this by obviously visiting Las Vegas, but your favorite team's in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and I thought Devin raised a really good point that now with 4 years of the Chiefs going to Las Vegas, that perhaps this gives them an edge because they're aware of what those distractions are and what lies ahead of them. But plus, not even that, but the experience of playing in their, fourth Super Bowl over the last 4 years or 5 years. So that could be a distinct advantage that the Chiefs carry into this.
Probably a bigger factor than where the Super Bowl will be played, right? Is what you just said, the experience factor. But we'll talk about that when we start making our predictions. That's a great point.
But also the location too. I think like the double whammy of playing in Super Bowls and knowing the environment.
Very, very a perceptive point that we should be keeping in mind when we're making our predictions in a little bit as we are previewing, predicting, and getting excited for Super Bowl 58. And Marver, the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, and you're hearing the do's and don'ts and the distraction. I mean, whether or not this was Miami or Vegas, but your thoughts on what the rules are and kind of the vibes of this aspect of sports and gambling, especially the biggest game in America in Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, as you may know, this game was originally going to be in New Orleans, but it was pushed back to 25 because they didn't want to conflict with Mardi Gras. Point number one. Point number two, we haven't mentioned the key element. I'm very concerned because Taylor Swift will be on a concert tour in Japan on February 9th and 10th. So this is of great concern to me that her private jet might get there in time. When she touches her hair and she asks if she's on camera yet and she can jump up and down. It's very important that we have that as part of this event. But I've narrowed my 2 songs down for Usher now. It's between Blue and The Boyfriend. I hope that he does one of those too. The gambling doesn't bother me, by the way. By the way, Devin, how many hits did Pete Rose have? Don't get me started.
Okay, you know what, Marver, you've just gone all the way on this. We've gone from Taylor Swift to Usher to now Pete Rose. God bless you on a Super Bowl preview, Super Bowl 58. It is the Chiefs. It is the 49ers. We are here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm Mike Mercado. It's Paul Chivari, Devin Tingle, the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Paulie, before we break down the game in our predictions and we look forward to all the fun prop bets and everything that will actually happen come kickoff, is there anything that you have seen heading into the Super Bowl that has piqued your interest, that has kind of gotten you as a storyline, as a fan, or somebody who does this for a living that has really said, that's interesting?
For what it's worth, in all of these recent Super Bowls that Patrick Mahomes has played in, he never once had a lead going into the fourth quarter.
That is fascinating. That is fascinating because people made such a big deal heading in this playoff run of them never winning road games. And we tend to forget that in the biggest moments, whatever the team may look like. And we were mentioning 4 years ago, I mean, this is a team that doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore. This is a team that had a Travis Kelce, that had a busted knee week 1 of the season, and they still found their way here. And that is a fascinating point. And again, something we have to think about. Dev, before we make our predictions, before we go around the cubicle, is there something that has piqued your interest or just something that it has made you go as you're scrolling through social media, like, I didn't expect that to be a story at the Super Bowl?
I mean, to go off Paul's thing really quick, have the 49ers had a game where they had the lead in the fourth quarter in this playoff thing? Because I feel like they've been coming back every game so far
That's
entire playoff.
I'll have to look that up.
Definitely seem like that. Of course, if you listen to a great station like WCPT this morning, you definitely heard that there is a huge rustle about Taylor Swift and how she's a plant from all these people. And it's just kind of annoying. And I'm seeing the Swift fans make dumb jokes. I'm seeing the anti-Swift fans make dumb jokes. And I'm just going to close out on this. The Chiefs kicker, Harrison Bucker, he works with a pro-life organization. So anyone wants to say they're here because this is the libs trying to steal the Super Bowl, get the heck out of here. This is just a team that is really good. And I'll say it again. Daddy Pat McAfee said, the NFL is not scripted. Y'all are just dumb.
Look, it is the Super Bowl, so depending on how much money I lose, I'm going to say it's script or not on this platform.
I will put that tank top on if you don't stop it right now, mister.
All right, I have a parlay I need to hit. Paulie?
Just to follow up on what Devin asked me, if the Niners have had a lead going into the fourth quarter in this playoffs, no, they have not. In the divisional, they were losing to Green Bay, ended up outscoring them 10-0 in the last quarter. And then the NFC, they were tied to the Lions going into the fourth quarter. But as we know, they trailed 24-7 at the half. So adversity has been something the 49ers have been overcoming in this playoffs.
Again, X factors that people don't want to talk about because everybody makes their hot takes. But the idea is that this team has come back. They have the talent. The 49ers may have been chalked, but they have faced adversity in these playoffs and overcome them. And it's what we mentioned earlier. Good teams overcome adversity and bad play, and that is how they get to the big game and win the big game because they are that. They are built like that. They got the dog in them. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see that. Marver, before we make our predictions, we've been talking about interesting stories on the field for you during this game. I want to talk really fast your perception of Andy Reid. Do you think Andy Reid retires if he wins the Super Bowl?
Andy Reid retires. Well, that would be a good way to go out. I said before that's what Belichick should have done, but I have a feeling that he's with this, he still hungers. You still got the fire in the belly. So even if they win, I'm not sure he can do some more commercials too. You know, his brand will be good, so he can do those commercials. So I think he might hang around a little bit longer.
Look, and as long as he keeps saying, explain it to me, but using those nuggies on national television, I will always be okay with Andy Reid being on my television. Speaking of Andy Reid, we have finally made it. It is time to predict Super Bowl 58 between the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs and the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. On one side, Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, a Brandon Ayuk, a George Kittle. On the other side, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, maybe the greatest tight end quarterback duo we've seen since Tom Brady and Gronk, trying to establish themselves as the next great duo of a generation. You have Andy Reid coaching a team that has an emerged Isaiah Pacheco and what they've done with Chandler Jones on that side of the defense. They have two teams playing in this big game that if it's scripted or not, they got the right cast. There's a bunch of superstars in this game that can make this an all-timer. And that is why it's going to be very hard to predict. So we're going to start with the guy who watches the Chiefs twice a year, who has seen a lot of football with us, talked a lot of football with us this season, and it's finally come down to this, Paulie. Time to predict the last game of the NFL season. The Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers. What happens on Sunday, February 11th, 2024 at Allegiant Stadium?
Well, it's hard to bet against the Chiefs. There's experience. There's the fact that they're defending champions. It's the fact that they're kind of in the middle of maybe a dynasty right now that they can really solidify with a win. I'd love to go with the Chiefs, but however, I think there's an X factor for the 49ers that we haven't really talked about that is a game-changing type of player that was not there 4 years ago and who's now on this team and who I think will be the MVP of the Super Bowl with the 49ers win. It'll be 30-24 in overtime on a Christian McCaffrey rushing touchdown that will seal the deal. And that's my MVP as well.
Great call. And that means we have ourselves a great game if that's the prediction that it goes with. Devin, Super Bowl 58, Chiefs, 49ers. Is it going to be an all-timer? Is it going to be a dud? Who's the MVP? What happens in Las Vegas?
I think the game's going to be tied going into the fourth quarter and the world's going to implode because both teams don't have a deficit or a lead. No, I mean, I definitely think this is going to be kind of a close one. I don't think we're going to break. I think 27 is going to be the winning team score. I don't think it's going to be the way it's going to be. And as Paul Aisha said, you really can't go against the Chiefs here. And let's be real here, the 49ers, both teams have kind of felt like they've been getting by the skin of their teeth here. But I mean, as we kind of saw against the game with the Ravens, it wasn't high scoring, but Patrick Mahomes has turned it on and remembered he is Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. And I don't want to say Patrick Mahomes because I definitely could see Pacheco or Chris Jones really, being a bigger factor here. But I feel like I got to say Patrick Mahomes because in all reality, if he's the quarterback, he's the face of this team. Yes, social media. There is a guy who is not named Travis Kelce who this team really likes and really put all their money into. He's got what 80 something million, 200 million, crazy. So I'm gonna go with Patrick Mahomes. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 27-24, maybe even coming down to the wire in this game.
And you said overtime, right?
Oh no, just to the
No,
wire.
just to the wire. Okay.
Marvelous. We are getting to the Super Bowl. And shout out Devin. I said Chandler Jones. Chris Jones. Yes, Chris Jones for the Chiefs has been balling out and made a huge difference. And they lost actually somebody on the defensive line. I'm spacing on the name. Torn ACL on the defensive side for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's going to be a big blow. So something to keep in mind as we're making our picks. But Marver, we are here. Las Vegas, Allegiant Stadium. Who do you got, my as you're going through the crystal ball? What happens when Sunday night hits and the final whistle blows? Who has won Super Bowl 58?
Well, I'm going to stick with my pick at the beginning of the season, which would be the Chiefs. Now, you guys know I'm a historian and a mathematician, among other things. And in Super Bowl LIV, they scored 31, again, LV 31, and LVII 38. So I think it's going to be a 31-point total for Kansas City. And, it was 31-20 4 years ago. So, I mean, history may repeat itself for another 31-20, I feel. And that's going to be my prediction, 31-20 Chiefs. And I guess Mahomes has to be the MVP unless somebody does something remarkable on the offensive end, because does a defensive guy ever get the MVP? Not too often.
So this is something that I've been facing, especially when it was Chiefs and Bills, Chiefs and Ravens. My analytical brain, my every stat says, go with the 49ers. Go with the team with the two stud receivers and the freak tight end and maybe a future Hall of Famer at running back. A boy genius now become man genius in offense in Kyle Shanahan. But until somebody kills Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, before somebody slays that dragon, before somebody defeats Vader and Thanos, I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs 27, San Francisco 49ers 24, and the Chiefs win another Super Bowl. I think this has the potential to blow up at all our face that picked the Kansas City Chiefs. I think there's a universe where the 49ers have enough talent to overcome a Brock Purdy mistake. But I will say this much. Unlike other teams that San Francisco has played, if you make a mistake, Kansas City will capitalize on it. They will drain the clock. And by the time you know it, you are down 10 points with 3 minutes left. And if the scenario is the opposite and it's a one-score game, but Mahomes has the ball with a chance to win, do you trust any defense to stop him from winning that game? That's the question I ask to all people making a prediction. Because this is what we're talking about, though, of what makes a great matchup in sports, in boxing, in combat sports. When it's matchups like this, when it's opponents like this, that your heart, your brain could be at odds because either team could win the big game. But those are our official predictions for Super Bowl 58 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. We have a few minutes left, so why don't we have some fun? You guys want to make some prop bets and see what we got? All right,
let's do it.
Let's do some fun ones first, okay? So obviously, we'll do the Taylor Swift one. Just to start things off, we'll go around the room. We'll make this one rapido. We'll make sure that everybody gets credit for this in our point system. So first one, Taylor Swift. How many times is Taylor Swift seen over under 3.5? Paulie, I will start with you. 3.5 times that we see a cutaway of Taylor Swift.
Over. They're going to show her probably a dozen times in this game if she's there.
Devin, over, under 3.5 times we see Taylor Swift.
I was going to say 3 because that tends to be the average, but you said 3.5, so I got to go under.
Marver, over, under. How many times do we see Taylor Swift? 3.5. How many times do we see Taylor Swift?
5 at least. But keep in mind, she's going to have jet lag because her last concert is in Tokyo on the 10th. So it may be 0 if there's any kind of delays with weather or what have you.
I suggest everybody check out that amazing social media video of the group of friends that were doing the math and checking flight times. Taylor Swift can make it from Tokyo if she finishes her concert at 11 p.m., 12 p.m. Tokyo time. And if she goes on her private jet, she will be able to make it in time to actually get about 6 hours of sleep and make it to the Super Bowl. So fingers crossed, it's an easy over. All right, what color is the Gatorade poured on the winning coach? Purple, orange, red, clear, blue, yellow, green. Paulie, what color do you think it's going to be?
Red. It's got to be red. 2 red teams. I think that's the logical choice.
Devin.
Isn't it always yellow? I'll stick with yellow.
Marver.
I say yellow.
I'm going to go blue. I think it's going to be blue. Paul, heads or tails?
Tails.
Devin, heads or tails?
Heads.
Marver, heads or tails?
I think it's tails because they don't even have a heads or tails on their commemorative coin. So they probably can't even tell the difference.
All right.
Don't put it in the vending machine.
Let's go actually on the field for the last ones. Patrick Mahomes over under 261.5 yards. Over under 261.5 for Mahomes. Paulie?
I'm going to go under.
Devin, over under 261.5 for Mahomes.
I was going to go under, but I don't want to agree with Paul, so I'll say over.
Marver, 261.5 over under for Mahomes passing yards.
Barely over.
I'm going to go with under on that one. I think it's going to be under 261. Purdy, 245.5. Over under. Paulie?
Under.
Devin?
Under.
Marver?
Under.
I'm going under as well. All right, let's go touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, over under a touchdown and a half. Paulie?
Just rushing.
As a touchdown, one rushing touchdown. Yes, good call.
We'll go over.
Devin?
I'll go over. I think he's going to get at least 2.
Marver?
I agree. Probably get 2.
I'm going under. He's getting 1. He might catch 1, but he's getting 1. All right.
What's heads or tails? You never told us.
Oh, I'm going heads. Good call. Okay. I will go heads. All right. Last one, guys. What do you guys want to do as the last one? Let's see. I think the last one should be, let's go total score. Right? You guys want to see what the total score of the Super Bowl is going to be?
Okay.
That's the math.
I think the total is, as I am looking it up right now at our friends over at DraftKings. We are not sponsored by DraftKings, but we want to make sure that we are
the first sports book we're happy to look at.
Yeah, just the one that we're happy to look at, because I want to make sure that there's full transparency of where we're getting these numbers. But in the over-under of Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and 49ers is over-under 47. Paulie, 47 total points.
Over.
Devin.
If my math is right, over.
Marver.
Well, I said 31-20, which is 51, so that's over.
I will be going with under. So we have ourselves our prediction. Guys, this was a lot of fun. This was a great time. Super Bowl 58. It is the Kansas City Chiefs. It is the San Francisco 49ers. Sunday, February 11th, 2024 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Make sure you leave your comments down below in the video, wherever you're listening to your favorite podcast. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be the MVP? Obviously, if you didn't hear, because I don't think I said it, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP, but we want to know who you think is going to be the MVP. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. Of course, subscribe to us on YouTube at the Sports Cubicle. Make sure you like us and visit us and listen to all the interviews that we've done over at WCPT SoundCloud at WCPT. And of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast at Sports from the Couch, the Sports Cubicle. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy the week leading up to the Super Bowl. Make your bets and props safely and responsibly. And enjoy the ride. Make sure you got your food all set up, because we sure do here at the Sports Cubicle. We'll be breaking it down as the fallout of Super Bowl 58 hits us. He's the marvelous one, Dan Marver. It's Paul Chivari. He's Devin Tingle. I'm Mike Mercado.